If I'd have done all the things I was supposed to have done, I'd be really tired.
He stands alone on a stage that has witnessed every triumph and tragedy of his life. Willie Nelson, now in his 90s, looks out across the years with eyes that have seen too much and survived even more. The red-headed stranger who once ran from his demons now faces them with the quiet dignity of a man who knows his time is ending. Behind those weathered features lies a story most will never fully understand. A lifetime of abandonment, loss, financial ruin, and heartbreak that would have broken lesser men. Yet Willie never broke. He bent, he bled, he barely survived, but he never surrendered. Now, as his body weakens and his breath grows shorter, he's revealed something that stunned the world. He's ready for it to end. Not out of defeat, but acceptance. To understand why requires traveling back to where it all began, to a childhood that should never have been. Abandoned childhood. Willie Hugh Nelson was born into a world that didn't want him. His mother abandoned him and his sister Bobby when Willie was just 6 months old, vanishing into a life they would never be part of. His father followed soon after, leaving the children with their grandparents in Abbott, Texas. The wounds of that abandonment never healed. They festered quietly in the heart of a boy who would spend his entire life searching for something he could never name. His grandparents did their best, but love given out of duty cannot fill the void left by parents who choose to walk away. Willie learned early that the people who should protect you can disappear without warning, that permanence is an illusion, and that survival means learning to stand alone. The scars carved into his soul during those formative years would shape every relationship, every decision, every heartbreak that followed. Music became the only parent he could trust, the only thing that never abandoned him. Music as an escape. Willie discovered his salvation in the strings of a guitar. Music didn't judge him, didn't leave him, didn't make promises it couldn't keep. By age 7, he was already writing songs, pouring the pain of abandonment into melodies that seemed to come from somewhere beyond himself. The guitar became his voice when words failed, his companion when loneliness threatened to consume him. He played at local dances, in honky-tonks, anywhere that would have him, because being on stage meant he wasn't alone. Music offered escape from the poverty of Abbott, from the emptiness of a home without parents, from the gnawing sense that he was fundamentally unwanted. Every note he played was an act of defiance against the silence that abandonment leaves behind. But escape through music came with its own price. The road demanded everything, and Willie gave it willingly, not realizing he was repeating the pattern of abandonment that had defined his childhood. Success in music would cost him the very things he craved most: stability, family, a place to call home. The stage became his prison even as it remained his sanctuary, and the damage that followed would nearly destroy him. Broken marriage and the Nashville breakdown. Martha Matthews became Willie's first wife, and their marriage was gasoline poured on fire. The violence between them was legendary. She once sewed him into bedsheets and beat him with a broomstick, and he retaliated in kind. They were two wounded souls tearing each other apart, unable to love, unable to leave. Willie's constant touring, his drinking, his absence, it all fed the rage. When the marriage finally collapsed, Willie found himself in Nashville, broke and broken, sleeping in his car and questioning whether any of it had been worth it. He'd written songs that made other people rich and famous while he struggled to pay rent. The Nashville establishment wanted him to conform, to sand down the rough edges that made him unique. And for years he tried. The pressure built like steam in a sealed vessel until one night, drunk and despairing, Willie lay down in the middle of a Nashville street, waiting for a car to end his suffering. Somehow, he survived that night, But something inside him had shattered beyond repair. The death that came next, though, would cut deeper than any personal failure. The death of Billie Nelson. Willie's son, Billy, was born with troubles Willie understood too well: the demons of depression, the weight of a famous father's shadow, the genetic inheritance of pain. On Christmas Day in 1991, Willie Nelson took his own life. He was only 33 years old. For Willie, the loss was incomprehensible. He had survived abandonment, poverty, failure, violence, and despair, but burying his own child broke something fundamental in his soul. The guilt was crushing. Had he passed on his darkness? Had his absences as a father, his constant touring, his own struggles with demons, somehow led Billy to that final, irreversible choice? No amount of success, no number of hit songs, no adoration from millions could fill the hole left by his son's death. Willie retreated into his music, but even that sanctuary felt hollow now. The stage that had saved him as a child couldn't save his boy. He began to understand that some losses cannot be survived, only endured, and just when it seemed life couldn't take anything more from him, the government came knocking with a bill that threatened to erase everything he'd built. Willie Nelson's fall from financial grace in 1990 was as dramatic as any outlaw ballad he ever sang. When the IRS stormed in and seized everything, his homes, his ranch, his possessions, they left him with a crushing $32 million debt. His accountants had failed him, investments had collapsed, and the government wanted retribution. Most men would have surrendered, but Willie refused. He released the IRS tapes. Who Will Buy My Memories, touring relentlessly while every dollar he earned went to clearing a debt he never fully created. His humiliation was national and public, yet his integrity never wavered. The experience simply confirmed what he'd learned long ago. Nothing lasts, nothing truly belongs to you, and the institutions meant to protect you can destroy you without hesitation. But Willie's battle wasn't only with the government. It was with the music industry that tried for decades to tame him. When Nashville demanded conformity, Willie walked away and carved his own path. His album Red-Headed Stranger, dismissed by executives as too sparse and too risky, became a defining masterpiece. He fought for artistic freedom when few artists dared to. But autonomy came with a cost. Blacklists, critics calling him outdated, and executives who resented his success outside their control. His activism, especially Farm Aid, won him the hearts of working Americans but enemies among the powerful. Then came the battle no rebel could escape: time itself. Willie's voice grew thinner, his lungs weaker, and his legendary stamina faded. Emphysema, pneumonia, and years of hard living forced him to slow down. The road that once saved him began to slip out of reach, and as he aged, the greatest sorrow settled in. The highwaymen were gone. Willie became the last man standing, singing not just to audiences, but to ghosts. Survival, he realized, can be its own kind of grief. The real reason Willie accepts the end. When Willie Nelson said he was ready for it to end, the world recoiled, but those who truly understand his journey know this isn't surrender, it's wisdom. Willie has walked through fire and emerged on the other side. He's lost parents, children, brothers, fortunes, health, and time. He's given everything he had to his music, his fans, his causes, and his truth. Now, approaching the final verse of his song, he looks back without regret. The real reason Willie accepts the end is simple. He's tired of watching everyone he loves disappear. He's tired of burying friends, of singing to empty spaces where his brothers once stood, of waking up in pain that reminds him his body is failing. He's made his peace with the abandonment that started everything, understanding finally that everyone leaves eventually, even him. Willie's acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about acknowledging that he's done enough, lived enough, fought enough. He's ready to lay down the burden of being Willie Nelson, to stop carrying the weight of expectations and memories and loss. He's ready to rest after 90-plus years of running from abandonment. He's finally ready to let go, to join the brothers and the son who went ahead, to find the peace that a lifetime on the road never provided. Willie Nelson's story is America's story. Resilience born from abandonment, art forged in pain, survival against impossible odds. He took the wounds of his childhood and transformed them into music that spoke to millions of forgotten souls. He stood alone when it would have been easier to conform, fought back when life demanded surrender, and kept singing even as his voice began to fail. His acceptance of the end isn't tragedy. It's the final act of a man who's lived on his own terms until the very last breath. The red-headed stranger who once lay in a Nashville street waiting to die now faces his mortality with grace, knowing he's left behind something that will never die. Songs that speak truth, a legacy of defiance, and proof that even the abandoned can become legendary. When Willie finally takes his last bow, he won't be running anymore.